Here's how to use AI agents to make more money within any business. First, I'll share a few examples, then we'll discuss why this is the most underrated opportunity right now, and after, I'll explain how you can build these same agents yourself. Here's how most businesses run ads right now. First, we choose a platform, Meta, Google, YouTube, whatever. Then we identify what creative we would use. Usually all the creatives have call to action, and the call to action leads to a website or the landing page. Now, depending on the business type, we might have a direct purchase when the goal is to make the user purchase our product or service right away. Usually these are the e-com, low ticket info products, software, and tools. Or after the website, after the person lands at the website, there is a whole sales funnel structure needed to make sure that the prospect is qualified and nurture him further. Depending on the business type, if it's the B2C, for example, these are the local businesses where you can order the service right away, but usually you cannot pay because you need to be asked a few questions to make sure that it's going to be a good fit. For the B2B, because the checks are higher, like software, professional services, manufacturer, wholesale, there is a whole nother pipeline. So let's actually see the entire pipeline overview in action so that then we can identify the actual bottlenecks where AI can be used. First step is getting the eyeballs. Again, if we are talking about B2C local businesses, they would usually run ads like that. No video, text with a simple call to action, learn more, contact us. That would lead to a interest capturing mechanism. And usually you have three: the direct CTA on the website. For example, this is the website for a plumbing service, and there's a CTA to make the call. Again, when we're working with local businesses, usually they all want you to give them a call because there is like some customization and personalization needed depending on the service, and they want to make sure that you will find the value within what they offer. Again, so either the calls or sometimes they can have a live chat if they are more modern. The second option is to have a forms where they will qualify and nurture you further after you submit the information. Again, depending on the business size, depending on the business type, for example, this is the same business that has the call to action of the phone. Maybe there's sometimes an email or the SMS. There's a form. Forms could be different. Forms could be dynamic, where you input certain information and then the information is getting conditioned. So the next step is personalized based on the information that you provided before, or usually this is like pretty static standard forms when it's asking you for the email, phone number, locations where it's needed, and all this information. This information is captured and then sent to the actual CRM and the software where the sales rep analyze it, and if it's a good fit, they give it a call. And the third one is just to educating through the content on the website or through the live chat. Education, very important, especially when they are selling more complex services or the services that involve a lot of the personalization and customization, like for example plumbing. Again, so there are a lot of different use cases, and people usually would want to know first if this business is able to handle this type of the request. So they either go through the website, or as we know that the attention span for people is getting lower and lower, they want to get their answers instantly. That's why live chats are very, very good, but it can be expensive, so we'll talk about it later. Now, so once we got the eyeballs, we send the traffic to the website. So we had a few different capture interest mechanisms. Either we are just educating the prospect to make sure that they will do an informed decision, or we're trying to capture the information through the form, or we're trying to present it through the call to action, or again through the live chat. The next step is the booking. Once everything has been done, we're booking an appointment or the visit for the example of the local business. Most local businesses are either now not using any CRM or using some specific type of the CRM for, plumbing services in this case. Then there's a follow-up process, which usually do not exist. And there is an upsells which are done in person, because when, for example, the specialist comes to your home, then he, fix the problem, and then he can check some other things and then try to upsell more services, or then afterwards contact you and like explain what else you would need. This does exist, but the follow-up does not. We'll talk about this later. So this is, again, very, very high overview of pipeline within the local businesses. And most of the things that are involved, some sort of a sales funnel and selling the B2C products, are can fit this type of the sales funnel. Now, when it comes to the B2B companies, again, either SaaS, professional services, or wholesale, it's very similar, but what the difference is that you actually need to sell the product. You need to do the hard sell, usually through the one-on-one call and through like educating people more and understanding the value. So the actual sales cycles are longer. So first we have the eyeballs. From our experience, yeah, so like, guys, I'm generalizing everything. There is millions, tens of the millions of different businesses with different things. I'm like trying to give the overall picture to then explain how the AI agents can fit into each stage of the pipeline. So usually the businesses that you would work with are generating the traffic when it comes to the B2B, either through the word of mouth, PPC, aka Google Ads, or the content. Now, a lot of them run the ads, but ads for the B2B is a bit different, and it's usually a bit it's trickier than something for the local services, where people in need of the solution right now. Again, trying to generalize everything. So we are getting the eyeballs. Let's say this is the Google Ads. Once we got the eyeballs, we're capturing the interest through the direct CTA, same thing, through the phone number or maybe the booking process on the website, or through the forms, right? Then we are qualifying and nurturing people through the same forms. This is very important, and it depends again on the business, but usually most B2B businesses will not be able to provide you some tangible result, some tangible information before they capture the information from you. And this information will be provided by the actual sales reps because their products are higher tier. So even this is the B2B software, which might seem like you can, have a demo right away, but because this is much more expensive, the only way to do that is request a demo. And when you click the request the demo, you're going through the form. They are asking you the questions the same way as the form here asks, but in more dynamic format. And still, in order to get the price, you need to contact the sales specialist, which is the most important thing to understand. Okay, so the final boss of this pipeline is the actual sales call, one-on-one call, or one-on-one demo call, strategy call, whatever they call it. So this is how it usually happens if they're selling physical products, and if they are old school, like manufacturers, they still need to either visit, have an in-person meeting, or they would have a call to explain all the specifics, okay? So simplified way of looking at both of these pipelines for the B2B or B2C, we have the eyeballs, we have the sales, then we have the fulfillment and management. Okay, now for the fulfillment and management, we're not going to cover this in the specific video, because AI can be used in all of these, like management, to try to upsell additional products, try to manage the prospect and move through different departments. So it's a whole nother story. For the fulfillment, it really depends on the product. Usually this is a company specific things that you cannot really implement as a third party. What we're talking is about the eyeballs and the sales. Eyeballs is basically the marketing. So this is the marketing, channels. If you go to the B2B, so it's like word of mouth, which is kind of sort of a marketing. It's the PPC marketing, content marketing, or the Facebook marketing through the different social media accounts. Okay. Now, the sales can be classified and divided into the two stages. So there is qualification, nurturing, education, follow-ups, reminders, and all these things, and the actual closing. From our experience, we did not really yet found a really good use case for AI agents that can close. Obviously, there are some startups that pop up here and there are different tools that say that they'll help you with the closing. And yeah, sure. So there are guys like Phantom, where there's no takers, or the dynamic AI sales reps that will join your call and will help you to close the prospect, or would even, use something like Tavis, which are digital avatars, and try to close the prospect for you. But again, I never saw personally a really good use case for it. I never saw a successful case study for it. That's why I do not believe that the closing can be handled right now with the AI, and I don't think that it needs to be, because all of these salespersons that we're gonna discuss later, they are trained really good to close the prospects. And usually this is not a bottleneck. The bottleneck is that they work with a lot of the shitty prospects that are not ready to buy and not really interested. And also the problem and the bottleneck for a lot of the companies is marketing. So this is where the money can be made. Because when we're selling AI services, we can either save the business save time, or make them more money. I'm not saying that one is better than the other. When you're saving time, that's great, and this could make them a lot of more money, but it's very hard to tie it down directly, and to find the direct correlation by the amount of time that it's sent and the amount of money that they make. That's why it's a harder sell. When you're making more money for the business on the opposite side, it's much easier to sell, because if you come to me and say, hey, Eugene, I'll make you $10,000, you'll give me a cut of 5, I'll say, sure. Can you do, please, $10 billion? So, but with the making money, it's a bit tricky, because now you're responsible for actually delivering the results, which is a good thing in general. But what I don't like, for example, in general marketing services, is that usually the businesses that you're reaching out to or working with are broke, and you are responsible for getting the business off the ground, and you have a lot of pressure on your shoulders. Again, so more responsibility you take, more you can charge. So there are pros and cons for each one of these things. So here is what we can do with all this information. Traditionally, marketing was done by marketing agencies, so they are driving traffic, right? Usually it's done externally. Again, so I'm like simplifying that depending on the business, depending on the industry, but hiring a third-party marketing team is much more common than hiring a third-party sales. So that's why the marketing, let's say that marketing is done externally and the sales are done internally by the actual sales team. But these sales teams are usually old school, being trained to work in a certain way when prospects come to them, which is good, right? So they are trained in a way where they can sell really, really good. But if you think about this from a business perspective, you are paying to the sales members to work with all the prospects, if they're qualified or if they're not qualified. And this is why what we noticed, this process, like specifically here, is the huge bottleneck for a lot of the businesses, because this is outsourced to the marketing team. Marketing teams usually are not involved in this, but the actual sales teams internally are focusing on closing and working with the prospects that are interested. So this is where a lot of the guys are getting missed, or businesses overpay to the closers and salespeople to actually work on that side of the sales cycle, which they should not handle, and they should focus on what is the most important for the business, right? So basically, we have two ways to utilize this inside the process and to actually make money. The first one is to become the ultimate agency, or if you are building it for your business, to become like a ultimate tool system, build an ultimate system that will do everything, right? And the ultimate agency means that you are combining the marketing services and this services on the sales cycle. So you build them an acquisition funnel. Again, you could set up the Google ads, or you could set up the Facebook ads. And then you also work with the prospects on qualification, nurturing, education, follow-up, reminders, and all other aspects before the prospect is actually getting closed. And I do think, and I do see, so I talk to a lot of the guys within our our network that are building these type of the things, and a lot of the agency owners come to the one prompt because everything has been already built there. They don't want to spend their time like developing everything from scratch. They're just licensing our system and adding the system to their marketing services. So now they're becoming an ultimate tool which does it all. But I do believe that it's a bit tricky because, as I said, you are still responsible for the entire sales funnel. You can charge more, you can potentially make more money, but it's much harder. And other option, which is the most popular, obviously, is to build AI sales funnel for a very specific use case. Now, if you think about this, when you are talking with the businesses, and if this is not a brokey business, they will have some sort of an acquisition funnel or the way of getting the eyeballs. But they might not have a proper way to scale up because of the constraints within their sales team. I've been reached out a lot by different businesses that tell me, hey Eugene, we can literally press the button and have 5x traffic, but our team cannot handle that. And this is such a great use case for AI. The bad use case for AI and for AI agency owners, services, consultants, when the business comes in and say, hey, I need this button. I need the button where you need to press and drive the interest, the eyeballs, the marketing. This is the task for the marketing agency. We don't have marketing agencies. I don't teach people how to build marketing agencies. I've never had one. We had one 8 years ago or whatever, not 8, probably 4 years ago within the Amazon space. We were launching products on Amazon, but it was different. It was still not purely ads, okay? So now, how would you actually build this sales system yourself? We have 4 pillars that you would need to utilize, okay? The centralized system where everything will be in one place, the conversational interface, because we're building conversational sales agents that talk to the final prospects. Either these are the businesses for the B2B or consumers for the B2C. We have the AI engine, and then the logic. A quick thing, if you do not want to build this yourself, you can literally license our agents, right, in systems and resell it to your clients for multiple 4 figures. The link in the description. Now, for the centralized system, 3 options: the custom, business-centric, or the high level. The custom, it means that you are gonna build the custom interface or either in platforms like Airtable, where it can potentially be done if you're working with a lot of the database, if you're building the re-engagement agents or the database reactivation agents, or just lead capturing, and all the information will be captured within the forms that will then be updated inside the different pipeline stages through Airtable. So it could be done. Or if you're super fancy, you could build Lovable, but please forget about that. Don't try to overcomplicate things. You do not need a custom interface. So, okay, the other option is to use a business-centric logic, because most of the businesses that you will interact with, as I said, they will have their management systems, they will have their CRMs or ERPs, NetSuite, Salesforce, Pipedrive, HubSpot. You can potentially use it as a centralized system, because this is the centralized system for their business, but as we will see later, it's gonna be harder. For us, the best option right now is the high level. Not because of the different and billions and gazillions of functions that it have, but because of the flexibility and really good model when it comes to customizing like certain things. Okay, that's why the one prompt is built on top of the high level. Now, I know that a lot of you might say, okay, but if the business already has the CRM, the high level basically is the CRM. So isn't it going to be harder to sell if you're like selling this? Yeah, but you're not selling CRM. You're selling the sales system that is built on top of the CRM, which, by the way, you are configuring in a way where they do not even see that this is the CRM, and you can sync it directly with the logic from their business systems. Now, the conversational interface, because these are the agents that talk to clients. Again, it doesn't really matter what type of the thing that you're building. You would need either the live chat, SMS, email, WhatsApp, Telegram, like Instagram, whatever the business you're dealing with. So you need a way to have an interface on your side, where you will see all the conversations in one place, and you can hand off the conversations to a human, need it or not, doesn't matter. You still need to analyze everything. So you need to have a proper interface. And two, you need to have the interface for the customers to interact with, right? So everything should be in place. And again, so yes, sure. So usually the HubSpot, Pipedrive, others do have a way to, get everything. So have one inbox for the SMS and email. But now the questions are if you're needing the more channels, right? But again, so please, like, listen, you do not need to focus on that. You can just stick with a high level and use it, because there inside you can connect different channels. Okay. Now the engine. The engine is powering the whole thing. So for example, this is the sales engine. This is one of the engines from the one prompt. So what we are using is the N8N as well as the Voiceflow. If I open the Voiceflow, I'll show you how it looks. You can technically use Make, but Make is not designed as a platform where you can build a conversational logic experiences. So that's why the only two best options right now are the Voiceflow and N8N, where you are going to create the actual logic, integrations, knowledge base, and all the reference information that you would want the agent, the bot to have when talking to the prospect, right? So this is, for example, a templated version of our engine on the Voiceflow. And this, for example, N8N agent I was recording the video last week about has the same exact functionality, but it's a bit more deep and has a few more functions because of the way how N8N could be structured. So once we have the centralized system, think about the dashboard, the pipeline, and all the logic, all the connections. Once we have the interface for people to interact with, so let's say if it's the live chat, you need to have a proper way to get the live chat and like get the script and input the script to the website. You need to have a way to submit, to get the forms and submit these forms to this centralized system. You need to have a proper way to sync the SMS with the voice calls, for example, if you're building the voice and SMS agents together. Now, once this is done, you are powering everything using the engine, and then you're doing the logic. And this is where like high level shines, and this is where most of the business-centric solutions and the existing CRMs and ERPs cannot do the job, right? So because like technically, if you think about this, as I said, sure, a lot of the guys, a lot of the CRMs have their multi or omni-channel things that you can deploy to the website through or to the forms. You can connect the phone numbers there, you can connect all the SMS, you can connect the WhatsApp even there. Okay, that's great. But how are you going to power these channels with your sales agent? How are you going to connect this specific agent to the SMS? How are you going to connect it to the phone calls? If you're like even building a separate agent on retail or web, how are you going to sync everything together? This is where the logic comes in. And that is why I was like shilling to you the high level, because the advantage of the high level is that they have really, really good automations. So for example, if we go to the omnichannel that we have Here, if we go to the N8N, you will see that we have multiple automations. And these automations are not by themselves generating a response. They are just there to create the logic. Because, again, so let's say here we have a dashboard. So this is a centralized hub. Within the HighLevel, we have a phone number connected, right, to Twilio, because we're using the voice and SMS together. And once you have everything together, once you have the dashboard, when people send you an SMS or they submit the form, same way as they submit the form here, right? So once they submit the form, either here or right here, because you're trying to automate this process, you need a way to get this information in, provide it to the agent as a context, right? So what you're basically doing is you're capturing this information. This information is then sent to your centralized system. Then it's getting sent to the agent. Agent generates a response that is getting sent to the user. Let's say this is the email, or let's say this is the SMS. So now, as I was saying, the form comes here. You can build, the advantage again of the HighLevel is that they have their own forms, or you can just use some random jot forms and have it here, because again, so you can create a custom trigger. So then what we are doing, and by the way, so this is another automation. Let me actually show you the automation for the engagement when we are sending the message first. So when the form is received, right? So when you are, there is a system, you are getting the form in. What you do, you're providing this form, see, form submitted, you're providing this form to the agent. So you're providing it here through the HTTP request. Here, you can just use a simple ChatGPT module where it will analyze and then identify if this prospect qualifies or not. Again, so it's a simplified way. You can use a custom GPT that you create, or you can use an actual agent with the knowledge base within the N8N. So now, when you qualify this prospect, right? So you need to send them the engagement, and that's the power, because you can do everything in one place within the HighLevel. So you can research the prospect, you can do the logic, and then you are actually launching the agent. We're launching the Voiceflow in this case, and we are outputting the personalized message to the user. So we are engaging with the user, and once the user replies, then there is an actual nurturing, qualification, education process, okay? So what I'm saying is that I don't think that HighLevel is the holy grail of the solutions. It's just the most simplified way for you to go about that. You can use the custom interface, right? So you can build it custom. But think about this. You need to give people, businesses, an option to manage the pipeline, to actually manage the dashboard and everything that you need. But there is no way to do that if you are building a custom interface, or it's going to be very, very hard on your side to pull it off. So especially if you're starting, or if you're an existing business and just want to have this already set up, just go with a HighLevel, create a really, really good agent on N8N or Voiceflow. By the way, if you want me to go in depth into the difference between the N8N and the Voiceflow when it comes to the conversational agents, let me know in the comments. So I am planning to create the video anyways. So once you have the system in place, once you connected all your channels, once you created the engine, you're just through the logic, you are attaching this interface, right? So the HighLevel in this case to your engine, and you're just going back and forth. You're setting everything up, and you have a production ready sales system that can automate most of the pipeline and can really fix the constraints that the business might have within their sales funnel. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one. Peace.